And now let's move on to our next presentation, next speaker. So the next speaker is Evgeny Guryanov from Vice President of Product in inDrive. And Evgeny will be giving us some information about how to organize the chaos for a manager in our lives, giving us some frameworks and a structure to work with. Evgeny, without further ado, please.
Hello. Can you give me the presentation? Hello. My name is Evgeny Guryanov and Vice President of Products in inDrive. Today I will tell you about the structure for solving 99% of issues. But before we dive into the essence of my presentation, I want to tell you a little bit about myself and about inDrive company. I have been working in product management for more than 10 years, and on this slide you can see the logos of the companies I worked for. I have been working as CPO and VP of product for the last 5 years. inDrive is one of the most popular ride-hailing apps in the world. inDrive takes the second place among ride-hailing services in terms of the monthly installs in Play Market and App Store. Today, inDrive is available in more than 700 cities in 47 countries. So let's go to the presentation. How did the idea of this presentation come into my head? Why do I think that this presentation is so important for every manager? I even say more. I believe that this presentation is important for everybody in this room. You face different problems, different situations during your work from day to day. And there are often situations when you don't know how to start to solve different problems. It's really hard to understand what is the basics, what is the support for thinking about something. And I will provide one example to you of such a situation. We'll use this example in the future part of the presentation. Let's imagine that inDrive's revenue fell by 15% compared to the previous month. And the chief executive officer comes to you and asks you to research this problem and to create a plan of the actions. My presentation consists of 3 parts. The first part, more theoretical, is about the tools, techniques, principles, and so on. In the second, more practical part, we will explore how to use these tools. We will reinvent different frameworks, we will solve different problems, and so on. And at the end of the presentation, I will summarize all my thoughts on one slide. Let's start with tools and techniques. The first principle I called zoom in, zoom out. They say you should be able to see the forest and the trees. You need to be able to navigate between the big picture, like the whole forest, whole planet, and the decomposition of the picture into the parts, like 3 or 5 trees, the forest edge, the river, and so on. I think you understand the navigation principle of this presentation. I hope you remember this example, and we'll use our tool to break the problem into the parts, into the questions. So, what happens with the whole market? Did all competitors drop in revenue by some percentage? Or there are several verticals, there are several products in our company. And we should ask the following question, like, did all products in our company drop in revenue or only one? Sorry, timeline principle. The flow of the time is so familiar to us. We'll use as is to be approach in our presentations. We'll see the historical data, we use the flows of the events of the users, and we all understand past, present, and future tenses. And for example, when we design customer journey maps, we think about the interaction between the system and the user in time. So how can we use this approach for our problem solving? We should think about the past. For example, did we have the same revenue drops in the past, for example? Maybe it is seasonality. Maybe we have the same revenue drop during the previous period of the month. And let's think about the timeline as a number of actions of user over the time. So we should analyze the conversions of the users in the funnel. When we think about the future, we keep in mind some image, the image of the time horizon. But it is a restriction of our brain. And to avoid this restriction, to avoid the data paralysis, to avoid to stuck in situation, I recommend to think about the near future and about the far one. It is about the tactics and strategy. In our situation, tactics is the number of actions to achieve short-term goals. It can be to monitor the market, to understand the trends, identify something, to understand proxy metrics, and so on. And as for the strategy, on the contrary, we think about the short-term plan. It is about to create a monitoring system, alerting system, the system of leading metrics, and so on. Every system is located inside the other systems. We can think about the internal system and their property. We can think about the external system and about the interaction and influence. If you have communicational, psychological, behavioral questions, the internal system is you, and the external system is a community. In our situation, the internal system, it is our company, with employees, with problems inside, and the external system can be competitors. Competitors can launch bonus programs for drivers. Competitors can start loyalty program for passengers, for example. Every situation, every initiative has pros and cons. It's not only about the advantages, disadvantages, pluses and minuses. It's also about impact and costs required to achieve this impact. You can create the list of the pros and cons to evaluate it, and it can help you to understand the return on investment, ROI, of your initiatives. When you think about different pros and cons of some initiatives, they all have different sizes. To avoid data paralysis and to train your brain to prioritize different parts of the system, I think you can use the abstract gradations or abstract sizings. You can use numbers from 1 to 5, you can use t-shirt sizing, and so on. I will not waste our time for this usage of the principles. I think it's obvious for you. 5W2H analysis. It helps you to better understand the situation. This framework based on 7 key questions. What is the problem? It is about the detailed description of the problem. Where is the problem happened? Country, location, and so on. When did the problem happen? When did it start? How long did it last? Who is suffering because of it? Who caused the problem, of course? Why is it a problem for us? Why is it urgent? Why is it important to solve it, of course? And how can we solve it? How much it will cost to solve it for us? Maybe something about the revenue. And the last approach is matrices. In mathematics, matrix is a table of values and expressions arranged in rows and columns. As axis, you can use all tools I have described earlier. For example, here horizontally I used inside-outside tool, and vertically I used pros and cons tool. How do you think? What is the name of the framework we have just invented? Any ideas? Shout out an answer. Yeah, it's SWOT analysis. Strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, threats. Let's go to explore more usage of these tools. Let's reinvent another existing framework. I will get one tool, sizing, and another tool, pros and cons. We can mix it, and what do we get? How do you think? Actually, we get I-scoring, but without C letter. Without confidence. As far as I remember, during the previous product camp, I told that, in my presentation, of course, I told that confidence is unnecessary for this framework. Yeah, it's my opinion. And another one, we try to reinvent another framework. The tool number one is timeline in terms of the urgency, and tool number two, sizing in terms of the importance. We can combine it into the matrix. And how do you think? What do we get? Yes, more rare framework, actually. Isn't our matrix. So, you can invent different frameworks, you can create new ones or existing ones, and now let's imagine that you're a product manager in the inDrive company and you would like to launch the loyalty program feature in the inDrive. Now you need to understand what is the metrics you should measure during this experiment. Use the first approach, zoom in, zoom out tool. Okay, at the level of the whole company, at the level of the forest, we should think about the high-level metrics, like gross merchandise volume, revenue, number of rides. Then go deeper. At the level of countries, we can break these metrics by countries. Go deeper, we can think about the product metrics and the metrics of this certain feature. I mean loyalty program. It is the usage of this feature, retention, LTV, the number of active users of the loyalty program, and so on. Thinking about timeline, we can think about cohort analysis in time, or about the addictive effect. And pros and cons framework makes us think about control metrics and metrics of fraud. If the promo code is a part of loyalty program, of course, some passengers can generate, recreate accounts, try to find additional promo codes in the internet, and the profit of the company will drop. You should measure this metric. The next example is about entering to a new market, to a new country. Using the timeline principle, we start with the past. Okay, what happened in the past? Is this country similar to the previous ones? Are the competitors similar to the previous competitors in the different old markets? As for the present, we should analyze the trends. We should understand in what stage are competitors now. For example, is it active bonusing of drivers or gathering the revenue from the market? Timeline for future. In terms of the tactics, you should think about marketing, promotion, product development for the launching. You should think about monitoring and so on. And at the strategic level, you can think about your final goals. About, I don't know, maybe you want to be the leader of this market, or maybe this entering to the new market is something like the experiment for you to enter the bigger markets, like the pilot. And 5W to H analysis. I will focus only on some key questions, not to waste time. What is the appropriate product for this market? What is the ideal product for this market? Who are our competitors? How are our customers? When should we go to this market? Why is it important to enter this market? How much it is costing for us? The last example, it is a behavioral situation. For example, the team member goes to you and asks about the promotion. And what would you do in this situation? Using the two tools together, pros and cons and sizing, you can decide, for example, not to give the promotion to the person. And what are the advantages of this decision? Of course, you save the budget and you can promote somebody else. You can motivate the person to achieve some goals in order to get this promotion in the future. Of course, people in your company will not go to you to ask promotion anytime because they understand that you will not give it anytime. And what is about the disadvantage, the negative side of our situation? On the contrary, this person can leave the company and you should look for a new one. Or this person can be demotivated and work worse. In terms of sizing, you should estimate the priority of these pros and cons. For example, if you don't have people who can replace this person and the critical work stops, of course it is high priority. Inside-outside approach. I recommend to think about this situation in terms of the following questions. What do you want from this situation? What do the employee want from this situation? And what does company need from it? I think you should put yourself into the place of this employee and understand all feelings and arguments of this person. Maybe this person don't have enough money for living. Or, for example, this person has been working for a long time in your company and she or he thinks that he deserves a promotion during such a long period of time. Go further. 5W to H analysis. As for the similar example from the previous slides, I will use only key questions for this one. What is the real situation? Maybe the employee wants to increase the salary or to promote to the different position. How is the company evaluate this person? Who else might be involved in the decision? And when is appropriate time for promotion in a company? I want to summarize all my thoughts about the tools and principles of structuring thinking. You can take a picture of the slide because I think it's really important to have this nearby. And on this corner you have, as a bonus part of my presentation, is about the trees and pyramids. I didn't tell you about this project, but I think you can read something in the internet, and the usage process will be the same for these tools. Maybe you think that many things from my presentation is really obvious, but it is very important to understand that my presentation is not about separate approaches. It is about the structure of thinking. It is about how you can use all this framework in the real-time life. Thank you for your attention, and if you have a few minutes, I can answer a couple of questions.
Thank you very much. So let me take the first question. You say it applies to 99% of the issues.
Yes.
Why not 100?
Actually, something like I want to I want to remain 1% to avoid something like oh, we have this situation and I can't apply this framework, and I can say like okay, it is 1% for this example.
It's a safety mechanism.
Yeah, like safety metrics. And
did you ever have a
actually,
problem that was in that 1% that you couldn't solve with these frameworks?
Sorry, yes, it's about you can't measure this 99% as a whole, but it's something like the title of the presentation. Of course, it's maybe not 99, it maybe 98.5%. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Guys, any questions to Evgeny? Yes, please.
Hi, thanks. This was very interesting. I was wondering, have you used this in team meetings and kind of strategic planning in your company, this approach?
Actually, it is not about the usage of this memo. I mean this memo or manual. It is about the structural thinking, you know? When I use it, I even don't understand that I use these approaches. Because, you know, the brain is a number of neurons which can be trained in certain ways. It is about the impulse of electricity between the neurons. And I think during my whole life, I have created the structure of these neurons which were trained to use these approaches, and now I don't understand that I use it. But for example, when we plan the strategy, of course, we use the tactics and strategy. It is something like obvious approach. Sometimes we think about zoom in, zoom out, navigation, and so on. Yes, so I think it is the answer to the question.
Thank you. Any more questions, guys? Please don't be shy. There we go.
Igor.
Hi again, I'm Igor. So what framework we should use to see inDrive in Cyprus? We have
okay.
Bolt without taxes, we have CAPC, but no inDrive.
Actually, we have launched inDrive in Cyprus. We have launched inDrive in Limassol, but it's only the start.
Okay, so I want to see it in Nicosia next week?
I think no. I think we will communicate with you about this in personal messages, I think, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So everybody follow Evgeny, and probably you'll find out. One more question.
Hi. Thank you for your presentation. It was very interesting for me, and I have a very simple question to you. Can you think of the hardest situation or, I don't know, problem of the last month which you struggled with, and which tool or a technique did you use to solve it?
Yes.
Thank you.
It will be really related to the presentation, but also because I think the greatest problem from the previous month was to create this presentation and to go to this conference and give a speech here. Yes, when I created this presentation, I think about the zoom in, zoom out scenario. I understand what I want to say to the whole audience, and I understand what I want to say to segments of the people, for example, the junior, middle, or senior managers in this audience, of course. I think about inside-outside tool, because I think about what do I want from this presentation? What people want from this presentation, of course. And I think about timeline. It is about the planning. You should, yeah. Actually, it was an error, and I actually I tried to create a speech during the previous night, and it was a bad timeline for me. Yeah, it was a fault in the past, I think, and so on, I think, yeah.
Thank you. Everybody, Evgeny Guryanov, Vice President of Product at inDrive.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.